My name is Arthur, and I lost my marriage after decades of doing everything right. At least, that's what I believed. I believed I had been a good husband, a responsible man, someone who worked hard, kept his promises, paid the bills, and stayed loyal. And yet, after all those years, I found myself sitting alone in a quiet house wondering how two people who had shared so much could end up feeling like strangers. That's a difficult question to live with, especially when you spent most of your life believing you had done what was expected of you. I'm not telling this story because I want sympathy. I'm telling it because I spent a long time misunderstanding what love needed, and understanding arrived later than I would have liked. These days are slower now. I wake up early because old habits don't disappear. I make coffee. I sit by the window. The house has sounds of its own. The refrigerator humming, the floorboard settling, the wind against the curtains. It's strange how much you notice when life becomes quiet. And quiet has a way of bringing memories to the surface, sometimes memories you would rather leave alone. I met my wife when we were young. Neither of us had much, just dreams and energy. We laughed easily then. Everything felt possible. We could spend hours talking about small things that seemed important. What kind of house we wanted, where we might travel, what our future children might be like. Back then, we thought love alone would be enough. Maybe that's what young people are supposed to believe, and to be honest, we were happy. Not perfect, but happy. I remember how proud I felt when we got married. I promised myself I would give her a good life, not an exciting life, not a glamorous life, a secure life, because security was something I had grown up without. My father worried constantly about money. My mother stretched every dollar until it couldn't stretch anymore. I remember those worries, and I promised myself my family would never live like that. So I worked, and I worked hard. I wasn't chasing wealth. I was chasing peace, or at least what I thought peace looked like. Long hours became normal. Extra shifts became normal. Coming home tired became normal. And because it happened gradually, none of it felt wrong. She supported me, at least in the beginning. She understood why I stayed late. She understood why weekends sometimes belonged to work. We both believed it was temporary. We said those words often, just until things settled down, just until we're more secure, just until we get ahead. Funny thing about life, things never really settle down. There's always another responsibility waiting, another expense, another reason to postpone what matters. When our first child was born, I promised myself I would slow down. But promotions came, responsibilities grew, and I convinced myself I was doing it for the people I loved, which in some ways was true. But good intentions are strange. They don't always lead where you expect. I remember one night coming home late. My daughter had fallen asleep on the couch. There were crayons scattered on the coffee table. She had made me a drawing. My wife said she had waited hours to show it to me. I smiled and said I'd look at it tomorrow. Tomorrow came, and I forgot. That memory stayed forgotten for years, until one day it came back. And it hurt more than I expected, because life isn't made up of grand gestures. It's made up of ordinary moments, and ordinary moments disappear quietly. At the time, I didn't understand that. I thought providing was love. I thought loyalty was enough. I thought staying was enough. And maybe those things matter. But I learned they aren't the whole story. As the years passed, our marriage looked good from the outside. We raised children. We paid off the house. We celebrated anniversaries. People called us a strong couple. And I believed them because nothing dramatic was happening. No betrayals, no scandals, no shouting. But sometimes relationships don't break loudly. Sometimes they fade softly. Looking back now, I see signs I missed. Conversations becoming shorter, silences becoming longer, her stories becoming simpler. Not because she had less to say, because she had stopped expecting me to listen. That realization came much later. Too late, perhaps. I remember evenings when she would sit beside me while I watched television. She'd begin talking about something that happened during her day, and I would nod without really hearing. Not because I didn't care, because I was tired or distracted or thinking about work. I always had reasons, reasonable reasons. That's the dangerous part. Most mistakes don't feel unreasonable while you're making them. She never screamed. She never demanded. She simply became quieter. And I mistook quiet for peace. But silence isn't always peace. Years passed. Children grew up. The house became quieter. And eventually, it was just the two of us again. I thought things would naturally become closer. After all, we finally had time. But something unexpected happened. We didn't really know how to be together anymore. Not deeply, not the way we once had. We had become excellent roommates, excellent problem solvers, excellent managers of life. But somewhere along the way, we had stopped being companions. I didn't understand it, and truthfully, I didn't want to, because understanding would have required me to admit something painful, that maybe doing everything right wasn't the same as doing everything that mattered. One evening, she said something I'll never forget. She said it calmly, without anger, without tears. She looked at me and said, "You've always taken care of us." Then she paused, and somehow I've still felt alone. I wish I could tell you I understood immediately. I didn't. Part of me felt hurt, defensive. I thought about all the sacrifices I had made, all the years I had worked, everything I had done. I wanted credit. But love isn't a performance review, and loneliness doesn't disappear because you can list your accomplishments. At the time, I didn't know what to say, so I said very little, which, looking back, had always been my habit. Silence, delay, tomorrow, those old companions. And slowly, something inside her stopped hoping. I didn't notice when it happened, or maybe I noticed and didn't want to believe it, because some truths are uncomfortable, and comfort can make us blind. Eventually, she left. Not dramatically, no slammed doors, no ugly scenes, just sadness and exhaustion. She told me she wasn't angry anymore. She was simply tired. Tired of waiting to feel seen. Tired of waiting for conversations that never happened. Tired of feeling alone while sitting beside someone. That sentence stayed with me. Alone while sitting beside someone. I didn't sleep much after that. I walked through the house at night, looking at photographs, family vacations, birthdays, Christmas mornings, smiling faces, and I asked myself a question I still ask. How could so much love exist and still leave two people lonely? I think I know the answer now. Love isn't just sacrifice. It isn't just loyalty. It isn't just staying. Love needs attention. Attention to ordinary things. Attention to small conversations. Attention to the person changing beside you. Because people change. We all do. And if you're not paying attention, one day you wake up beside someone you no longer truly know, and they no longer know you. There are things now that cannot be repaired, versions of our future that never happened, conversations we postponed. words we assumed there would always be time to say. Time doesn't make promises. That's something old age teaches you, not cruelly, just honestly. I don't spend my days drowning in regret. There is gratitude, too. We shared many beautiful years, raised wonderful children, built a life, and I loved her. I know that. But love hidden behind routine can become invisible, and invisible things are easily forgotten. If you're listening to this, I won't tell you how to live. Life is complicated. Responsibilities matter. Work matters. Providing matters. I believed those things then. I still believe them now. But I wish I had understood that being needed isn't the same as being known. And being present isn't the same as simply being there. There is a difference. And that difference can shape an entire life. These days, I sit by the window and remember, not the arguments, not the disappointments. I remember her laugh when we were young, the way she held my hand in crowded places, the way she smiled when she was trying not to laugh. Memory can be kind like that. It gives you pieces, even when the whole picture is gone. My name is Arthur, and I lost my marriage after decades of doing everything right. Or what I thought was right. Now I understand something I wish I had understood much sooner. Doing everything right is not always the same as loving well. I carry that quietly, and I leave it with you.